All right, so there's a lot going on in this YNW Melly trial, or the hearing that they're having before the trial starts. And it's kind of hard to keep up with everything. It's a whole lot of information, but we're going to get into it for you just like promised. And we're going to keep you updated on a day-to-day basis, just like promised. YNW Melly's hearing was postponed after accusation of prosecutors withholding info delays the murder trial. We already spoke about the murder trial being delayed, but right now, yesterday, which was the 10th of the 10th, 2023, that would be October 10th, 2023, Melly and his team was supposed to be back in court again, but something happened. So they were a no-show for yesterday. So rapper YNW Melly was set to appear in court on Tuesday after his double murder retrial was delayed because his defense attorney said that South Florida prosecutors committed felony obstruction of justice. According to the defense attorneys, the prosecutors did not reveal that the lead detective in the murder case, which is Moretti, they revealed that Moretti had been previously accused of being willing to lie when he is gathering evidence. Now, on Tuesday, attorneys for YNW Melly requested for the hearing to be rescheduled for Wednesday, which is today, as one of the defense attorneys was reportedly in a hospital. So whatever was supposed to take place in court on the 10th of the 10th, October 10th, 2023, didn't happen. They didn't show up. One of the defense attorneys was reportedly in the hospital. That means one of YNW Melly's attorneys was in the hospital for whatever reason. Now, today, which is the 11th of October, they're set to go back to court again. Attorneys for Melly, whose legal name is Jamel Demons, on Friday asked the Broward Circuit Court Judge John J. Murphy to remove the entire Broward State Attorney's Office from this case and to potentially dismiss the entire case. A lot of people said, yeah, his lawyers are reaching, they're overreaching and they're grasping at straws, right? To dismiss the entire case. This is a double murder case. If anything, I've predicted that they will probably remove, worst case scenario, they'll remove the prosecutor, change it to a different prosecutor, or remove Mark Moretti from the case and any evidence that he had gathered. If he is found to have been in breach of the law, then this could get rough, because all the evidence that Mark Moretti had gathered, that evidence would be thrown out as well. And I'm absolutely sure that that's what YNW Melly's attorneys are going for, to discredit some of that evidence that they have against YNW Melly, but they're doing it from a different angle. Like them old school people say, there's more than one ways to skin a cat, right? So, and like YNW Melly's attorneys said, this trial, they're taking a whole different angle. We couldn't see what the whole different angle was about, how they were going to do that, but we know now, right? Let's not forget, YNW Melly and YNW Bortlen, his co-accused, they both just caught new charges, witness tampering. That witness tampering charge within itself, in a double murder homicide, that's a serious charge by itself. So although YNW Melly's attorneys are showing out right now with this prosecutorial misconduct stuff before the actual trial starts, don't forget that the prosecution themselves, they have that extra wild card in the pack, right? Okay, so jury selection in the retrial of the case is set to start this week. This is jury selection in the retrial of the case. Was set to start this week, but the judge had pushed it back a week ahead, and he had set a hearing to deal with the obstruction allegations. So what YNW Melly's attorneys were successful at doing was stalling the start of the new trial. So they were forced to take this extra week. I remember when I first told my audience, I said, hey, this is a serious accusation from YNW Melly's attorneys, the prosecutorial misconduct, because the kind of misconduct they are talking about could flip this whole case on its head. I had some people in the comment section who said, "Oh, you so stupid. You think that can really happen? You think the judge is even going to consider that or take that?" Well, here we are. They had to push it forward, push the retrial of the case forward, the starting date, and take an extra week to sort out this prosecutorial misconduct. And if you look at it and you look at the live videos, that's them in court arguing with lawyers having to take the stand. So it is that serious. So now the request from the defense attorneys comes after Assistant State Attorney Michelle Boutros, who many people think is either being paid off on the low, somebody got to her, or she has a bone to pick or a vendetta, because it's highly unheard of. You know, in the police force, they have something called the blue wall of silence, right? And this is where you never step out of line and say to the public, my brother was wrong. My fellow police officer was wrong, right? You deal with it internally, in-house. Same thing for military personnel, same thing for, it's just same thing. You could take it to the streets and say same thing for gang members, right? You're loyal to your own. So when an assistant state attorney like Michelle Boutros gets up and testifies, she works for the Broward office, the same Broward office that YNW Melly's attorneys are requesting that the judge remove the entire department from this case. What does that mean? That means if the judge grants that wish, then nobody who is employed by that Broward office can actually step up and say, okay, they removed the main prosecutor from this case, so I can step up and try this case. Nobody from that Broward office will be able to try that case. None, to include Michelle Boutros herself. She has now taken the stand as a assistant state attorney from that same Broward office in defense of YNW Melly's lawyers' accusations. She testified on Friday that she actually overheard Miramar Police Detective Mark Moretti, the lead detective in this case against YNW Melly. She testified that she heard him telling lies. She heard him telling another deputy to lie about being present when Moretti executed a search warrant outside of his jurisdiction last October, forcibly seizing a phone from YNW Melly's mother as a part of a witness tampering investigation. Mind you, this is Michelle Boutros, assistant state attorney. She's supposed to actually be on the side of the prosecution, and she flipped sides. In the name of justice is what she says she's doing it for. She didn't, but she can, obviously she cannot get on the stage and say, hey, me and YNW Melly's friends, YNW Melly's attorneys, we have a long-standing relationship. Over the years, we've known each other through this court system and going back and forth with different clients. We've developed a relationship and we respect each other, somewhat of a camaraderie. So now that they have this big case, I'm going to help them to win it. She can't get up there and say that. She can't get up there and say, oh, somebody paid me $1 million on the low to throw this case away. She can't get up there and say any of that stuff, right? So, of course, it's going to look like she's the only one in the whole Broward office, prosecution office, that actually wants justice, and she believes that something wrong was done that needs to be addressed. Now, in court, they're going to have to prove it. It has to be more than just what Assistant State Attorney Michelle Boutros says. So out comes the paperwork and the dates and recordings for who she told, when she told, who signed off on what. And if it all adds up at the end of the day, and YNW Melly's attorneys were right that the lead detective in YNW Melly's case was lying about anything, then this could turn this case on its head. The judge is going to have to now make a decision as to, does Moretti stay on the case or does he go? And if he goes, all the evidence that was gathered by him will be considered suspect evidence in this trial. They can't say he's a liar, he's a cheater, but we think this batch of evidence that he gathered is good. It's not going to go like that. It'll be he's a liar, he's a cheater, and every piece of evidence that he brought to this case needs to be thrown out with him. Where would that leave the case? How much evidence did Mark Moretti bring to this case? I want you to think about that. Right. So defense attorney Jamie Benjamin, who is YNW Melly's lawyer, he said that information should have been turned over to them because they could have used it to discredit Moretti from the first trial, right? By showing that that's who he is. But of course, prosecution says that the exchange between Moretti and the deputy, it was a joke. It was a joke. Pointing out to the fact that an attorney for YNW Melly's mom was in the room, and that attorney would have known if the deputy wasn't there or the deputy was there. So right there, I think that got stumped, and we will hear in court today if indeed Assistant State Attorney Christine Bradley, the lead prosecutor on Demon's case, testified on Friday that the deputy gave a flippant response and then asked about being in the room when the warrant was executed. However, the flippant response was determined to be a joke. Right now, they're trying to figure out whoever said that was a joke, because it wasn't a joke. But the state is also saying that the attorney for YNW Melly's mom was present in that room. The Boutros lady, the assistant state prosecutor Boutros lady that is now testifying for YNW Melly's team, she wasn't in the room. She was in another room adjacent to this room. So she overheard. It's like eavesdropping on people's conversation and overhearing stuff. She overheard in passing, right? But YNW Melly's mother's lawyer was present when her phone was taken and would have known that the deputy was not there. So if that's the case, they're probably even going to need to bring in YNW Melly's mother's lawyer and put YNW Melly's mother's lawyer on the stand. So YNW Melly's mother's lawyer can say, I was there when the phone was taken, right? And the detective was there as well. So that would be the end of that. I honestly think that all this is just stalling the case before they get to the real deal, because I think the real case is going to end in guilty. Melly is very confident. Looking at the letter that he wrote to his dad, I have no regrets. It was titled. Looking at that letter, he thinks that he's just going to have another mistrial and another mistrial and another mistrial until they're forced to just throw his case out. And he's being hopeful, but I don't think that that's what's happening. I think his lawyers know that it's about to go down, 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 and they're trying their best to do all they can to pull as many rabbits out the hat as they can to get Melly off, whether by causing so much doubt that the case the case cannot be tried again, or some other technicality, right? Anyhow, prosecutors want jurors' names to be kept under wraps in the upcoming YNW Melly murder trial. So the jurors should not be seen and the jurors' names should not be made public, right? So prosecutors in the YNW Melly case, this is a double murder case. They want Broward Circuit Court Judge John J. Murphy, who we all know now is the presiding judge over this case. They want him to hide the names of the jurors from the public, at least temporarily, for this upcoming trial. Honestly, I don't see why they would want to make that public anyways. Now, some of the names and physical descriptions of jurors at Demon's first trial, they were found in a notebook that was recovered October 2nd in the Miami home of Cortlen Henry, who is Demon's co-defendant. I want y'all to hear this, right? Some of the names and the physical description of jurors at Melly's first trial, they were found in a notebook that was recovered Remember, they just did a raid on YNW Melly's home, right? Not YNW Melly, sorry. They just did a raid on Bortlen's home, Cortlen Henry's home. And this is when he was arrested, and he was also charged with the whole witness tampering. But some of the stuff that was taken out of his house, they found a book. And the book had a physical description and the names of the juror members from YNW Melly's first trial. Now, why the hell would a book with the jurors' physical description and their names be in a book in Cortlen Henry's house? He has been charged with murder, accessory after the fact, and witness tampering. Now, the first trial ended with a hung jury, and a retrial is on its way. Now, there is evidence that suggests right now potential or seated jurors in the upcoming jury trial will be subjected to improper outside influences or harassment. Prosecutor Christine Bradley wrote in her motion in identifying jurors by name by number rather than by name. Juror 1, Juror 2, Juror 3, do not call their names out, right? Now, if you want to think about it, why was Cortlen Henry sitting on the outside getting a physical description of all the jurors and getting their names and writing it all out in a book, or having a book with all these descriptions? Maybe they could send people to these jurors, send people to their people, my mom's on jury duty on the YNW Melly case. Okay, send them after your kids, send them after her husband. Somebody pull up with a gun in hand and say, hey, yo, your mama on my homeboy's jury for his murder case. Listen, you don't tell her that no matter what she put on there, that he is not guilty. You heard me? All right, boom, and drive off. What you think's about to happen next? Or if everybody feels like, yo, if I become a juror on this case, I might end up dead. I don't want to be a juror on the case. Then they're going to have problems actually finding juror members to serve, right? Bradley also cited a September 26th letter that was purportedly written by a juror in the first trial, whose identity was concealed. And it says, due to the fact that Mr. Demons is somehow related to the so-called gang activity, you are brave to go forward a second time around, the letter writer said, cryptically omitting the last two letters of the word gang. Wow. So they're afraid because they think that there can be repercussions from the gang, which is the blood gang that YNW Melly is associated with. The letter appeared to be written by one of the majority of jurors who voted 9-3 in favor of convicting Demons. Due to the fact that Mr. Demons is somehow related to the so-called gang, and they hyphenated gang activity, you are brave to go forward for a second time around. Wow. So the letter appeared to be written by one of the jurors who voted 9-3 on the 9 side to convict Melly on the October 2018 murder of his friends and fellow rapper Christopher YNW Juvy, Anthony and YNW Sakchaser Williams. The letter advised Bradley to downplay the gang angle to this thing. Get off that gang stuff and focus instead on the ballistics, on evidence that demonstrate Thomas and Williams were shot by someone that was sitting with them in the Jeep Henry was driving that morning after a late night recording session. Basically, this is a threat letter. A threat letter that's saying leave the gang out of it, right? Because this is where it gets hairy at. This is where people are getting scared at. This is where people don't want to be jurors at. Prosecutors and investigators point to surveillance video showing that Demons as the fourth passenger in the Jeep. Now, Demons' retrial was supposed to start with jury selection this week, as we all know, but that ain't going to happen because of all the stuff that's going on. If Murphy concludes the prosecutor engaged in illegal misconduct by withholding the allegations, he could remove the entire Broward State Attorney's Office from this case, or he could even dismiss this whole case entirely. Hearings on the issue are scheduled to continue on Wednesday, which is today, right? And we are going to stay close to this one because we want you to be in the know about what's happening. Now, there's also the part where the dude who testified in the extentation case, that guy is now supposed to be a witness in YNW Melly's case. I don't know if he is a jailhouse informant or what, but it says that the man who cooperated in the extentation murder trial is now a witness in the YNW Melly case. If you remember, he testified against all the other guys, and they got life sentences without parole. He got some time, but he got an end date to when he'll be able to come home. Now, I don't know if he's been in the same prison with YNW Melly. He done seen and heard some things, and he's coming to court to say it. Robert Allen, the cooperating witness in the extentation murder trial, is now listed as a witness in the YNW Melly murder case. Robert Allen added as witness. On October 6th, the prosecution in YNW Melly murder case filed a supplemental discovery revealing additional witnesses they plan to bring forward during the trial. Now, according to court documents that were obtained by certain news media houses like WXL or, you know, all those other names, on Tuesday, October 10th, Robert Allen is one of 7 additional people that the state attorney's office listed as witnesses who have information that may be relevant to any offense charged or any defense thereto. It is unclear exactly what information Allen may be able to provide concerning the retrial of YNW Melly, which is set to begin a little while from now. Now, Robert Allen, as we said, was one of the 4 men in the 2018 robbery and murder of extentation, along with all the others, and he pled out. And he'll be in prison for 20 years, right? Due to his part in Allen's testimony, Boatwright, Williams, and Newsom were sentenced to life in prison. Allen was sentenced to 2 years in prison and 20 years of probation in exchange for his testimony. So, yeah, people are going to call him a snitch, but he ended up with 2 years in prison and then 20 years of probation. So he'll be out in a minute, right? So whoever is saying, oh, he trying to lessen his time some more, his time was already lessened. Everybody else in that trial that he went to court with in the extentation case, they got life in prison without the possibility of parole. He got 2 years. And that 2 years is pretty much done. And he's about to come out sometime soon anyways, right? So it ain't about him bargaining for extra time. It's probably about him being locked up with Melly and hearing stuff like Melly bragging about what he did or something like that. We will see when the trial starts. But remember, prosecution is going hard too because they got 7 new witnesses they plan to call. Stay tuned. Hit that subscribe button. I'll catch you on the next video. It's BrainFLoTv. I'm out. Peace.